For this Photoshop tutorial, we're going to take a look at how to turn yourself into a cartoon character in Photoshop. This is using a free Photoshop action called Toon Artist. And you pretty much want to scroll down into the description down below and get yourself to the download link and download the file right there. Just right click on it and then extract files here. So you pretty much want to go ahead and press OK. And in that folder, you will have two more folders. The first one is if you're using macOS, then you would use this folder right here. But if you're using Windows, then it would be the one right underneath it. So we're going to open this one up and you will have three different files in here. Go to Window, go down to Actions, and also go back to Window and make sure you have yourself the patterns. Go ahead and open up the Actions panel first. Go on to the lines right here. Left click on here and then go down to Load Actions. Locate where the folder is and you want to press load. You want to hop on over to the patterns, same as last time, go to the lines, go down to import patterns, and you will see the patterns right here, and go ahead and load these up. So once they're loaded, you will see them right here. If you're using an older version of Photoshop, then you would go to Edit, go to Presets, and then Preset Manager. In here, you would go to Load, and once again, you would just locate the file. You want to first of all make sure that you get yourself a new layer, go up to Filter, go down to Stylize, and in here, you want to make sure that you have the oil paint filter enabled. So if this is visible, then that's great, but if this is grayed out, it can mean three different things. The first thing is it can mean that your Photoshop does not support it or it is an older version. The second thing which it can mean is if you go to Image, go to Mode. So just make sure that it's set to RGB color and it's set to 8-bit channels. And then the very last reason is down to your graphics card. So you want to make sure you go to Edit, go down to Preferences, and then go to Performance. So make sure that this one is ticked. And in here, in the advanced options, make sure that the Open GL is ticked. You can then go ahead and get yourself the image and drag it into Photoshop. You want to left click on the lock to unlock this to be a layer, and you want to open up your actions. There is two ways that you can use this. So if you're not too bothered about the results and the edges, then you can just go ahead and go to the brush tool, get yourself the brush and set it to 100% hardness. You would then go ahead and pick any color that you want. We're going to go with a white, press OK. You would create yourself a new group above your main image, and then you would just color this in and cover it all up. Click on here and you would play the action. And of course, the second way to do this is using the selection tools. If you go to the fourth tool down, right click in here, go ahead and use the quick selection tool. Using the square brackets on your keyboard, you can adjust the size. You want to left click and then drag this and select your person. You can either go to select and mask in here, or you can go to the second tool and you will see the button right there. So go into the select and mask. What we want to do is we want to press this button right here, which will say refine hair. Now that we've done that, we also want to scroll up to the top, go over to the view, and then in here, go to a black and white view. You want to go to the third tool down and get yourself the brush tool. All you have to do is pretty much left click to add it on. Make sure it's on the plus and then add it onto here. You can always switch back to the other previews if you want to. Let's say your hair had a little bit of a tint color to it. You can go all the way to the bottom and you can tick this one that will say decontaminate colors. Right, so now we go to output 2. Go in here and set this to a new layer and then go ahead and press OK. Now, before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and press Ctrl and J to get ourselves a copy of it, and we're going to hide the one underneath it. The one at the top, we're going to right click on this one, go to Blending Options, get yourself a color overlay, and set it to any color that you want. And once again, I'm going to set it to a white color. Press OK again, and then finally you can unhide the main original image. Get yourself the action open, go over to the folder, and make sure that the Toon Artist is open. Go ahead and press that play action button. This will start the process. you will get a few multiple messages that will pop up. You just want to go ahead and press OK. Right, and there we go. Once the rendering is complete, you can go ahead and press continue, and you will see you have all these different layers and groups right here. At the beginning, it's going to be a little bit messy, so what you can do is you can minimize this one, the actions. You don't really need that anymore. You can minimize the group, and by holding Alt or Option key, you can then double left click on the arrow, and then once you open this back up, you'll see everything is neatly being organized into groups. If you wanted to edit the text, and let's say you wanted to put in some custom text right here, you would double left click on the smart object, the message will pop up, you go ahead and press OK, and in here you can hide this one, get yourself the text tool, left click and drag this out, and then type in your text. So basically this is your work area. You want to make sure that everything is inside of that. You can then close this down, make sure you click on yes to save it, and there we go. So this will load in and apply your new text. So let's start to customize this a little bit more. As you can see, we've got a bunch of things on the screen, and right now we're just looking at the image. So let's move on to the post effects. The post effects will have things like the border. So you have your border right here if you want to turn it off. Underneath that, you will have hue and saturation. So you can double left click on here and you can adjust it in here if you wanted more of a saturation. Underneath that, you will have things like levels. So if you wanted to adjust the levels, you can adjust it in here. And let's say you wanted it brighter, or you wanted colors to be even more saturated, you would do it all in here. And then of course you've got yourself a grain effect. So if you're looking for something like grainy in the background, you can have this enabled. Moving on to the next one, we have the FG effects. So this is basically like the little details that you can see. And if you wanted to, you could turn it off. I don't really want the little dots. So this one will be the lines. If you have a look at the one that will say right here, line effect 1, this is basically these little squiggly lines. And let's say that you did want to have it, but you didn't want it on a certain area. You would go to the brush tool, get yourself a black color, and then you would go ahead and click on the actual mask itself. Make sure you select on this one. You would just left click and then remove it from here. A cool little trick for this is if you wanted to, you can hold Alt, left click on the mask, and this will show you what you've actually applied onto that mask. So that is really cool and handy. So we're going to hold Alt, click on the mask again to go back onto it. And another shortcut for this is if you wanted to, you can hold Shift and then left click on the mask, and then this will disable that mask. Toon lines. Now, if you're wondering how to control this bit right here, where you can see the stroke lines and they're a bit too bold, you can get yourself the brush tool, go over to the first one right here, and you will need to edit these three right here. Make sure you're on a black color and you're on the mask, and then you would just take it away from here. And as you can see, it's removing some of the lines. And then moving on to background effects, this is the one that you're going to want to edit the most. So you're going to start off first having the controls for the hue and saturation right here. So once again, if you want to use the hue and saturation, underneath that you will have a gradient overlay. So if you double left click on here, you can see that at the top of it is nice and bright, and then at the bottom it gets darker. Underneath that you will see the splash effects. So personally, I don't really like these ones. You can remove them or keep them, completely up to you. And then of course, we're also going to remove the little tiny fragments in the background. And then underneath that, you will have the background patterns. This is another big one. And you have so many different styles that you can go through. And the best part about this is if you wanted to, you can enable one of them. So we're going to use the sunrise. And let's say you wanted another one, you can mix and match them together. Now, if you wanted to change the color, you would double left click on here, and then you can simply, let's say you wanted to be a more of a orange color. That's not looking too bad. That is quite cool. I'm quite happy with that. Now, let's say you wanted to customize the pattern itself. What you can do is you can right click on here, go to blending options. You can go over to the pattern overlay. So we're going to change the scale to 150. You can left click and then move this wherever you want. As you can see, we've moved it over And then finally, the very last one is the background color. So you could double left click on here, go ahead and press OK. And yeah, that is basically the Toon Artist action in Photoshop.